Hey guys, Tony Rowe here, back with another Chess rapid game. Got a provisional rating. Oh dear. Okay, we'll make this a... Do I want to make it a Sicilian? Nah, you know what? I'll stay playing the symmetrical English for the moment. And I could go G3 here. I'll go Knight C3. First, sometimes in the symmetrical, I like to play the 4 knights variation. Yeah, so we'll play D4. After C takes D4, knight takes D4. Black's main move is E6. Black usually doesn't think very long before taking it. The problem is that just D5 is pretty annoying if he doesn't do anything. Or not. I sort of feel like just D5 here without thinking about it much. Yeah, I'm just going to do this. I don't think E6 can be the best move. Seems a little risky. I don't totally see the point. Presumably E takes D5, C takes D5, and now Black has to kind of decide between knight E7, knight B4, knight B8. None of these squares are super exciting in their own way. Okay, so he goes knight E7 right away. I'm just going to go E4. It doesn't look like... I can play D6. D6 is actually pretty tempting. The reason being is that after I play D6, it's going to be very hard for him to finish his kingside development. The only thing I have to worry about is that pawn becoming extra weak. But now that I look at it, actually, D6, something like, let's say, knight G6, isn't knight B5 just really good? Does he stop knight C7 check? I don't totally understand what's happening here. So D6. I wonder if this is this guy's like first, like he beat. See, I noticed all of his ratings are provisional. I wonder if he beat like some 1800 in like one Chess classical game, and his rating is 2200 provisional. But he like I look at all his other ratings and they're like 1600, something like that. So I'm wondering if he got in under my Seek conditions through provisional ratings. So if D6, let's say knight C6, knight B5, he can go queen A5 check in all of these positions, but I'm just going to go bishop D2. D6, knight F5. I'm just trying to figure out if there's any possible way he can diffuse the knight B5 threat. It just really does not seem like it. So if D6, knight C6, knight B5, yeah, that looks pretty terminal. And if D6, knight F5, knight B5, that looks like death as well. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time thinking about this. This just looks pretty good. This also feels like a pretty logical exploitation of Black not taking on D4 and then not taking on D5. If you notice, if we go back, if Black took on D5, and let's say played, I don't know, knight E7 just like the game, then D6, knight G6, knight B5 would not be possible because queen A5 check would pick up the knight. With the C pawn no longer on this square and on D5 instead, well, D6 now, but with the C pawn missing and the E pawn missing, knight B5 can be met by queen A5 check, picking up this piece. Well, okay, I could go back, but then he wouldn't lose to knight c7. So he goes knight f5, and I'm going to go knight b5. This is a rather early morning recording. It is 11 my time. I'm normally a little bit groggy, and I actually had a really hard chess lesson last night. It just like really rocked my confidence in my ability to play the game. So I was a little bit nervous about about recording another game on camera, given how bad my lesson went last night. But oh well, that was quick. Okay, well, do I even upload this? I guess I'm sort of honor bound to do so. We can take a look at it, I guess. Okay, so knight f3, c5. And yeah, it's actually the one thing about playing c5, if you repertoire wise, is that if you don't play the Sicilian, this is not a good idea, of course, because white can trick you and play e4 and then go into an open Sicilian. So when you play knight f3, c5 as black, you have to make sure that not only do you need the symmetrical English in your repertoire, but you also need the Sicilian in your repertoire. So, but I'm normally happy to play c4 here. I know lately Georg Meyer has been playing c4 in response to this, but he used to go e4 all the time and then go into the bishop b5 lines. Worth considering if you play one knight f3. But yeah. And even here, there are some options. White can go g3. I like to go knight c3 lately, and after knight f6, go d4. And usually black is going c takes d4, knight takes d4, e6 in these positions, getting ready to develop the dark squared bishop. And I like to go g3. Let's turn on the opening explorer, in fact. Yahoo! And yeah, the main line here is queen b6. And it might actually be close to the only good move. Black can develop the dark square bishop to various squares, but somehow when I analyze these positions, it felt to me like white could reasonably exploit some of the dark squared problems that black has in these lines. The only reason I feel that way is that in a lot of, like, bishop b4 is a little bit hollow. Like, in a lot of these positions, after bishop takes c3, b takes c3, white has these really crappy doubled pawns, but black has massive problems on the dark squares here. Like, castles and, sure, castles. And, yeah, it just feels to me like either bishop f4, d6, or bishop a3, d6. Even c5 in some positions will be very cramping, and yeah, white has these doubled pawns, but we see in one game black played d5 and allowed white to offload one right away, and the two bishops feel better to me than the structural disadvantage. So, and a lot of times in these e6 symmetrical English structures, since black has moved the c pawn and the e pawn, d6 is really weak, and sometimes it's hard for him to finish his development. Like, b6 and bishop b7 is possible, but a lot of times that leaves the d7 pawn a little bit loose, or... So, queen b6 is the normal move here, and the move I prepped a while ago was knight d to b5, threatening knight d6 check, gobbling up this bishop, and black's normal move is knight e5, both meeting the threat of knight d6 by adding a second protector and threatening the c4 pawn. And I followed this Kramnik game, bishop g2, and now a6, booting this knight to an awkward square, and now knight a4 for white. And after queen a5 check, meeting the threat of knight takes b6, of course, knight b to c3, of course, a takes b5 as a threat, knight takes c4, and I believe the Kramnik game went b3, but you can also go castles. It's a similar idea. Yeah, and then I think knight a3 is the best move, like the computer is showing, but Gelfand played knight b6, and after knight takes b6, queen takes b6. Castles, it sort of looks like... I mean, white is down a pawn, of course, but black has some dark squared problems, and white will gain an extra tempo with bishop e3. And black is behind a little bit in development. For instance, I'm trying to remember if the Gelfand game went bishop e7. Let's say it did. Yeah, it did. Then knight a4, queen d8, bishop d3, bishop e3 rather is the game, and we noticed that maybe bishop b6, rook c1, or knight b6, etc. is coming. And I think black actually had to give up the exchange here. Bishop b6, queen d6, rook c1, and now we notice bishop c7 hitting the queen, and then knight b6 is kind of a threat, embarrassing this rook. And yeah, this is my intended preparation. I don't know if it's objectively anything for white. White will generally win the exchange somehow, but black has a pawn and some center control to compensate for that. Eventually, white will want to play e4 and strike back in the center. So that's an interesting line, just to kind of show you the flavor of some of the things that can happen if black goes down the main lines. But after queen b6, knight b5 is not the only move. Knight b3 is possible, as well as knight c2, but somehow knight d to b5, knight e5 feels the most incisive. White can go bishop f4, but I've always gone here. So black is not forced to go knight f6 either. It's also possible to go e5, so this move harshly stops d4. And then the two major approaches for white are e3, planning d4. I don't think this is particularly dangerous for black, and in fact, I think I defended this position as black in a recent correspondence game. And that game went, I believe, bishop e2. I think I played bishop e7. And after d4, e takes d4, e takes d4. I think I played d5. I'd have to look that up, though. I should remember, but it was a while ago, and I did all the analysis for it a while ago as well. But I would more typically play g3, and most of the time this is going to be kind of a reversed Botvinnik system. And if you guys aren't familiar with what typically gets labeled the quote-unquote Botvinnik system, it's normally pawns on the c-file and e-file pushed forward 2 squares, and then a kingside fianchetto, usually with the knight coming to e7. So for black to set up the Botvinnik system, he would typically go g6, bishop g2, bishop g7, let's say castles, and then something like d6 or knight g to e7. So something like this would typically be considered the Botvinnik system. And I say it's kind of black setting up the Botvinnik system. It's kind of a reverse Botvinnik system. Sometimes, let's say in the English, white will also set up the Botvinnik system after something like this. White can play e4, and then we have a similar sort of setup. And after d6, knight g to e2. Yeah, the game goes on. Oh dear, where was I? Well, okay. I've veered far enough track already that maybe we should just head back to the game. Yeah, e6 is just probably an inaccuracy. Now that I think about it, though, why has no one played d5? How is this a novelty? Everyone's gone e3? This has to be by transposition. So sometimes this opening explorer will show you moves as being the most popular, but they might not necessarily be the most popular in this specific position. It just means that the position after e3 is the most popular in the database, not necessarily that it made it to, not necessarily that it's the most popular from this specific move order. So that's kind of a tricky thing. Like it's most, yeah, you can see that only a couple of games out of 2,000 or so played e6 here, and it's likely that just no one responded to e6 with d5. So in those 2 games, no one played d5, but d5 to me seems to be the only actual move worth considering. Yeah. And already Yeah, the computer I think is suggesting knight d4, which just loses a pawn to takes, and takes here. Because of this d6 problem. So it didn't occur to me right away, but maybe takes. And, I mean, takes, knight b8 would probably be what I played in a game, but that's complete suffering. Yeah, I guess if d6 works, black is in essentially losing if this pawn is not lost. So I was a little bit worried about queen b6, but that's clever. Okay, yeah. So if queen b6, e4, if black takes the pawn in either way, he loses to a fork with e5. So if queen here, then takes, e5, presumably, wins a piece. And, of course, if just takes, then e5 wins a piece as well. So there you would have to calculate as far as queen e6 and realize that maybe something like queen e2 saves the piece. So that's harsh. Yeah, if queen b6 doesn't work, then black is essentially just losing here because he can't finish his kingside development, and e4, e5 is coming, or e4 and then knight b5 to c7 or something like that is coming. So yeah, this position is extremely bad for black. Again, almost for just to gain time, the computer is suggesting black jettison pawn, but that's, yeah. And yeah, black's move, presumably just d6 wins the house. And as I was saying, at least if takes, let's say the same as the game, knight e7, d6, knight f5, white can't go knight b5 immediately because of queen a5 check. And because the e-pawn hasn't moved yet and this bishop doesn't protect it, and the c-pawn is missing because of e takes d5, c takes d5, white would have to go back, and knight b5 would lose the d6 pawn, in fact. So yeah, but even in this position, e4 would be absolutely crushing because now knight b5 is a legitimate threat, and I threaten knight b5 with tempo essentially because I'm hitting this knight as well. So maybe knight g6 in this case would make more sense because now knight b5, again, queen a5. And I don't get to play e4 with tempo. So I could play e4 and knight b5 would be a threat, but at least black has a move to deal with it. But yeah, just very ugly play out of the opening and punished very quickly. So if I get a chance, I'll record another game today. I know this one is not particularly satisfying. I'm hesitant to even upload it, but good to post every game just to kind of be honest with myself. The only ones I haven't posted are the ones where I've accidentally featured a Lee chess feature early, or if my mic wasn't on, which you can understand. Okay, well, quick one. Kind of disappointing, but hey, you know, what can you do? Sometimes chess games end early. So, continue the streak, though. I haven't lost a game yet on camera. I'm waiting for someone to cut me down to size here. I deserve to lose a game, and I was sort of figuring that this might be the day, but we live to fight another day. No embarrassments yet. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this quick one. See you guys later, hopefully with another classical video. I'm working on another instructional video as we speak too, so that'll be up soon as well. Bye.